Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're venturing into the world of motorcycle clubs,
Hmm.
specifically the Sons of Satan Motorcycle Club. We've got a few different sources here that together kind of paint the picture of their history.
Right.
And our goal really for this deep dive is to get past the usual stereotypes,
Yeah, the sensational stuff.
Exactly, and try to understand where they came from, how they changed over time, and, well, what their story really tells us.
Absolutely. Because that term outlaw motorcycle club, it just comes loaded with assumptions, doesn't it?
It really does.
And what seems really compelling with the Sons of Satan is this documented evolution. You can trace it from, like you said, their roots after World War II right up to today, sort of.
Okay, let's dig into those roots then. Sources say 1949, Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
That's the start date, yeah.
And they even incorporated, what was it, 1954?
Yep, formalized it then.
What really jumps out at me is that the founders were returning World War II veterans. That detail alone kind of challenges some ideas, maybe?
Oh, definitely. Gives you crucial context, you know. After the war, lots of guys were looking for that camaraderie, that sense of belonging they had in the service.
Makes sense.
And motorcycle clubs provided that space.
Yeah.
So initially, the Sons of Satan, they were just known locally as the Sons, apparently.
Chief of the Sons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the description is fairly friendly, family-oriented,
Yeah.
quite different from what the name might suggest now.
Right. Big contrast. But, okay, here's where the story seems to pivot. This figure, John Satan Marin,
Mm.
he enters the picture, and our sources seem to point to his leadership as the moment things really shifted.
That's the narrative.
Taking them from that friendly local club to, the sources use the phrase, violent outlaw motorcycle gang.
It's a stark description.
Right.
And what's really interesting, too, is his later role. He becomes national president of the Pagans.
Yeah, the Pagans Motorcycle Club. That feels like a huge leap.
It absolutely does. Marin's influence, it looks like a critical point. His move up to lead the Pagans, which was, a much bigger, more established one-percenter club.
Right, the one percenters.
Yeah, that term signifies being outside the mainstream, the American Motorcyclist Association's view of things, embracing that outlaw identity. Marin going there suggests a real change in the Sons' direction under him.
So during this Marin phase, the Sons of Satan apparently really dominated central Pennsylvania.
It seems that way. The sources mention membership hitting over 100 people,
Wow.
drawn from Lancaster County, the surrounding areas. That's a significant local footprint back then.
Really shows their strength, yeah, in that specific area.
Definitely. But then the landscape starts changing. The 1960s roll around and the Pagans start pushing north, expanding their territory.
Ah, okay, so conflict brewing.
Well, yeah, inevitably there was some friction. The sources mention a brief conflict as these two groups kind of bumped up against each other, possibly competing for influence there.
But it wasn't like an all-out war that lasted. It seems like it went another way entirely.
Quite the opposite, yeah. The presidents, John Marin for the Sons, Fred Dutch Burhans for the Pagans, they actually met.
And they hit it off.
Apparently, yeah.
Huh.
Forged a friendship, which is, pretty unexpected when you think about rival club presidents.
Definitely. You'd expect clashes, not friendship.
Right. And the outcome of this connection was huge. Marin, along with some key Sons members, they actually patched over. They moved to the Pagans.
So they became pagans.
Those specific members did, yeah. But crucially, the rest of the Sons of Satan, the ones who stayed, they were allowed to keep operating.
Ah.
But
yeah.
this is key under pagan oversight. So it's a major shift in their status and their place in the wider biker scene.
And that explains that distinctive patch they wear, right? The diamond with the P inside.
Exactly. That patch tells the whole story visually.
Instead of the usual 1% patch you see on many outlaw clubs.
Right, which we talked about, signifying that outlaw status.
Mm-hmm.
They wear this P diamond.
So what's it saying?
Well, the P obviously signals their allegiance. They're tied to the Pagans, like a brother club, essentially.
Okay.
But by not wearing the standard 1% patch, they still maintain that outlaw identity, sort of, but their primary loyalty is clearly marked. It's a nuanced position within that whole world.
Interesting. Okay, but the story doesn't smooth out there. Mid-1970s, John Marin gets imprisoned.
Yeah, that's another major event.
And for really serious charges, it sounds like. Maiming and homicide are mentioned.
Extremely serious.
Yeah.
And losing a figure like Marin, especially under those circumstances, that would have definitely sent ripples through both clubs.
You'd think so. Leadership vacuum, maybe. Questions about the relationship going forward.
Absolutely. It raises all sorts of questions about, group stability, direction, how they manage that kind of internal crisis.
Right. Then, jumping way ahead, we get to 2002, another pretty dramatic event.
The clubhouse bombing.
Yeah, a pipe bomb explosion at the Sons of Satan clubhouse. Luckily, it was unattended at the time.
Fortunate, yeah. But still a violent attack.
And the authorities at the time suspected the Hells Angels might be involved.
That was the suspicion mentioned in the reports, yes. Though it seems the case was never actually solved.
So it suggests that even with this pagan alliance, there were still potentially some serious rivalries playing out with other big clubs.
It certainly points that way. The bombing highlights just how volatile that environment can be. Suspecting the Hells Angels suggests, ongoing friction over territory or status, perhaps.
Decades after Pagan Alliance was formed.
Right, and the fact it's unsolved just kind of leaves this lingering tension in their history.
And even getting back on their feet after that bombing wasn't straightforward, was it?
No, it seems they ran into trouble with the local zoning commission.
Trying to get permits to rebuild.
Exactly. There were reports of delays, denials, significant hurdles put in their way.
So that highlights another side of it dealing with local authorities, public perception.
It really does. That's often a reality for groups labeled outlaw, isn't it? Scrutiny, resistance from the community, or local government.
Yeah. So rebuilding took a while, but they did eventually manage it.
They did, yes. The clubhouse was eventually rebuilt.
Okay, so let's try and pull these threads together. We started with this post-war veterans club.
The Sons, friendly, family-oriented.
Then the shift under John Satan Marin towards, well, a more notorious outlaw reputation.
Right, becoming dominant locally.
Then the brief clash with the Pagans, which surprisingly turns into this lasting alliance.
A very defining alliance, yeah, symbolized by that pea patch.
Marking them as a brother club, operating under pagan oversight, but still part of that outlaw subculture.
Precisely.
And then these later challenges, Marin's imprisonment, the clubhouse bombing, the zoning issues.
Yeah, major tests for the club.
It really paints a picture that's much more complicated than just outlaw bikers, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's a narrative that, like you said earlier, defies those simple labels. You see loyalty, conflict, change, adaptation, all woven through their history, at least based on these sources we have.
Yeah. And it makes you think, doesn't it? How this one local club's story kind of mirrors bigger themes you see in subcultures everywhere.
Loyalty within the group, conflict with outsiders or authorities.
Right. And maybe the most fascinating part is how groups can just transform, sometimes in ways you'd never expect.
The twists and turns history takes.
Exactly. Definitely something for you, the listener, to chew on after this deep dive wraps up. How do groups evolve and change over time?